Yeah, a little bit. All right. So I just emailed everybody the workbook for this week. Did everyone check their email?
Yeah.
A little bit later than normal. I'm so sorry. Our house is dominated by the flu. Right now, the flu is winning life. Not going to lie. So my breakfast, cinnamon hearts. I would share, but obviously I don't share. All right. So if everyone can check their email, make sure you have it. We have a couple minutes left. So I am going to see if we can do share screen again.
Woo!
Can you guys see it?
Yes, ma'am.
God, I'm getting so good at this. Like I'm super impressing myself, guys. So
Can you hear me, Val?
I can. Welcome,
Oh,
Lisa.
Thank you.
All right. So
I'm like so on point today. I don't even know how this happened.
no worries. Hi, Debbie. You've got like a look on your face. Your eyebrows are a bit crossed. Is everything okay, Debbie?
Oh yeah, my computer's on mute and I couldn't figure out why.
I was like, why is her eyebrows so crossed?
My Zoom took over both my screens and I couldn't figure out what was going on.
It did the same to me and I was like, how do I share? I don't know where the camera is anymore.
Yeah.
All right, so we're 1 minute out. We got week 2 P&L up. Everyone got that example of the P&L I sent to, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Any questions about that? It's a bit, so typically I'll tell you a little bit about this P&L and why I choose to use this one. So this is definitely, hold on guys, I'm just trying to maneuver all these screens. Holy jeez. Did I take away that the video?
Yep.
Mother
Yes.
of God. Okay, can you guys see the week 2 thing now?
Nope.
Huh?
No. No. It's just a small little PDF.
I see your screensaver.
Oh, do you? Oh, that's because we're over here. Holy moly, guys. Okay.
I see your desktop. It's lovely.
Thank you. I love looking at greenery. I can't grow plants to save my life. So if I look at them, it makes me feel good. Well, obviously the alive ones. All right. So let's get started, guys. So just to kind of close off last week, does anyone have any questions from last week? Any big takeaways? Like, did anyone find value? Yeah, feedback would be great.
So can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
I liked how you broke down each of the sections because I then went back to my P&L and I made sure that my categories that are previously set up are in the right spot. So I really liked how you broke that down last week where things should be.
Mm-hmm. I think we all try to do our own thing and that's absolutely fine. You'll notice here that I do say you can create the P&L however is beneficial for your team. I started out following the MREA, and as our team grew, we had to change our dynamics. And that's what I was saying. So we have one P&L that's just tracking the income, another P&L that's tracking the expenses. So sorry, I just put a cinnamon heart in. It's so spicy. And then the last P&L, which is almost like the chart of accounts, where it's like the projection from 2018, 2019, last year to this year, like your comparables. So as your team grows and the more people you have on your team, the harder it's going to be to stay within the basic MRE model. But at least you'll have an idea. This is giving you an idea how to go. Okay, so outside of the having no questions from last week, I just want to make sure we all understand the categories for the MREA. Does anyone want to say them out loud or?
Lead gen, occupation, is that what you're referencing?
Mm-hmm. That's the one.
Equipment, marketing, education,
Mm-hmm.
auto insurance,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have sponsorship.
Awesome. So we've got office supplies as well. Did we say that one?
No.
That's the big one right there, because that's where, I don't know about you guys, but our office expenses can get quite large. So also a couple other things too, I wanted to just make sure, like, I'm going to send you guys something. We're not supposed to share this, but I really think that it's from Keller Williams University. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to actually mute a couple of you. There's a feedback going on from somebody. So, okay. Can you guys still hear me though, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So it's from 2008 and it's a chart of accounts. So it's how to track simply and make your definitions clear. After today's call, I'm going to scan this and send this to you guys, okay? So this was definitely helpful for me because it'll help you to know when you need to reorganize your budget, when you need to reorganize your P&L based on the growth of your team or the not so big growth when you downsize as well, okay? It'll talk to you about the most important time for you to track. Does anyone know when the most important time to track your P&L is? I'm going to unmute you guys. Actually, it's not very fair if I'm asking questions. So does anyone know when the most important time to track your numbers in your P&L?
Tax season.
Actually, 100% yes, please do. I can't unmute you, Tammy. So if you've got questions, you're just gonna have to put it in the chat. Sorry. Oh, you're good. You're good. Okay. The most important time to track your P&L is monthly, right? And some people call it the 15th protocol. I'm sure some of you guys have heard that term used. Some people use it just for a big team meeting to talk about sales, which is great. But it is actually for your P&L conversation to have. So week 4, we're going to go into the conversation, how to have that conversation with your rainmaker, with your accountant. Week 3, I actually have an accountant who's going to jump online. So if your rainmaker, your mega agent, whatever you want to call them, has any questions for an accountant, they're more than welcome to join the call, or get the questions for you and you ask the accountant. Okay. So what I've done is I brought an outside accountant who doesn't work with our team, who doesn't actually work with Keller Williams. So it's completely biased. Everything all the information you're going to get is strictly, he doesn't know who you are. He's never seen your books. He's going to tell you the best method. Okay. So
he's not your accountant though?
No, I didn't want to use our accountant because to be quite honest, there's a little bit of a language barrier. He's absolutely wonderful, and trust me, his accent is super cool and mesmerizes me. But I have to repeat myself several times to understand. So I want to make sure that we don't spend our hour trying to decipher his conversation. Okay. So outside of your profit and loss is your chart of accounts. So we're just going to talk about that quickly. Your chart of accounts. Does anyone know what that is in the P&L? So your chart of account is basically actually, I'm not going to pull the screen up. I'm just going to lose everything. Is the tracking tool to track your expenses year to date. So it'll pull up and it'll show you where you were in 2018, what 2019 is projecting, and then give you your basic general analysis for however many years you've been looking for. So sometimes when Chris and I are thinking about, or even if Chris is thinking about investing in their property, we'll pull up the chart of accounts and see how the business is kind of trending to see if investing is a good thing. Does that make sense? And if you have QuickBooks, you could pull up a chart of accounts. So I'm going to scan this though and send this to you guys because this is actually an example of a chart of account through the MREA, okay? It'll break down everything for you guys, okay?
Awesome.
Thank you.
Just have to find a better version of it because this one's sideways. So, okay. So last week we touched a little bit about each topic: payroll, occupancy, marketing, office supplies. Did anyone kind of attempt to do a P&L last week or look at their P&L at a different level?
Yep.
Okay, good. And how do you guys feel you did?
Good.
Yeah?
I think ours is set up really good.
Were there any surprises or anything that you maybe wasn't documented?
Yeah, definitely. I was documenting the HST off the commissions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's a
Okay,
biggie.
let's talk about that one for a minute. So are you having the HST come off at the office? Are they taking it out of your commission?
Yeah.
Okay, good. And then making sure that that's documented when they send you that quarterly report, right?
Right, but I wasn't tracking it. Yeah, that's a biggie.
Yeah, that's a biggie. I'll be honest, your accountant should be catching that as too. So if you had an accountant, okay, good.
Good.
Okay, good. So were you tracking it last year? Do you need to go back and review last year's?
No, we had it last year.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I know that's a big one. And that's a sneaky one, guys. So that's a really good point, Tammy. If you're not tracking the HST side, anyone who is renting an office space right now,
Mhm.
for residential, you don't have to do the HST. If it's a commercial space, make sure that you are documenting the HST on that as well. So let's say your rent is $9,000. Make sure that the HST is coming out of that $9,000. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I made that mistake, guys. So make sure you're doing that. All right. Did anyone have a chance to look at the sample P&L that I sent you guys?
Scary.
Yes.
Did someone say it's scary?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it is a bit scary. For some reason, I can't. Oh, Siri's talking to me. I'm trying to see if anyone's trying to chat right now. It looks as though it's not going to come through. Okay, guys. So if anyone's sending me a chat, apparently, let's just take a minute. I want to make sure I have all that stuff there. Oh, we do have chat. I have no idea where it went. Salaries, Chris, yes. And all right, so we're going to talk about salaries as well. Okay, I picked this year-to-date profit and loss for you guys because it does target a large team. Okay. And I'm hoping that every single person on this call is either going to be starting a team, part of a team, and or growing a team. So remember last week where I said we always have to plan bigger? So instead of planning for you and your rainmaker or you and that one buyer agent on your team, you're going to actually plan. So if there's an agent here today by yourself, you're going to plan as though it's you and 5 other people. Okay. And the reason why you're going to do that is because that gap now, when you bring that first agent on or you bring that next hire on, you've already got that space ready to go. And the growth is already there. So you guys will already know how to track cost of sales. And cost of sales is for your buyer agents and your listing agents. Okay. So can you guys see it? Well, did I send it out? Well, I sent it out in a PDF and as this. So let's talk a little bit about this. So one of the things someone had questioned about was salaries and payroll and employees. So if you're not muted and you can talk, go ahead and throw an actual question out to me on what specifically we want to look at.
I wanted to know what like the biggest difference was between hiring, like the benefit to the agent.
Of hiring.
Independent, I think it's independent contractor over employee. And what's the best way to set that up, I guess?
That is such a good question. So my take is, in my position, I always hire salary employees.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing contracting whatsoever. I would love to tell you the benefits of doing that, but I find that the benefits are more so for the employer. And at the end of the day, you save yourself a little bit in taxes. You really do. So that's the part of it that I do know is a benefit for the employer.
You pay less tax paying somebody's salary?
No, paying contract, sorry.
Okay.
The problem that I find with that is that you're not hiring for talent and that person's not committed to the team then. Because if they're a contract employee or a contracted out, then there's always that unknown, like, are they going to bring me back on after my contract's done? When you hire an employee, someone who's top talent, whatever that looks like for you guys, however your hiring process is, you're taking someone and giving them from a job to a career. And this is where I feel if you're hiring an employee, you'll have much more motivation, inspiration for them. And does that make sense? Is anyone here contracted out?
No, but we have people on contract.
You do, like administrators on contract?
No. Marketing.
Okay, that's different. If you have an outside company and for that kind of stuff, like a VA, whatever, then absolutely. But if we're talking as an executive assistant, an admin for your role, operations, whatever that is, the best thing for your business is to hire the most talented EA you could possibly get, most talented operations manager you could possibly get, and building them up so you never have to worry about turnover again. So contract employees don't feel validated. They don't feel attached to the role, attached to the company. They don't feel like they feel like they're just still here, like an outsider working for this company. And I could be wrong, guys. If you have a really great experience with a contract employee, absolutely stand in and fill in this conversation. The benefits to having an employee, though, for income tax purposes over a contractor is the benefits more on the contract side because you won't have to pay as much taxes, or any taxes for that matter. We've never done a contract employee. We've always done salary. When you're hiring for the administrator, the general rule of thumb for payroll is to always have 3 months in the bank. So if you're paying out a salary, you want to make sure you have 3 months of salary in the bank for that employee. And the P&L will tell you when you're ready, right? So it comes back to that. So if your P&L is tight and you're having those monthly conversations and you're looking at it weekly, for anyone right now who's thinking about bringing an assistant on, does anyone know what that looks like right now if you're looking to hire? Is there anyone right now who's kind of in the spot where they're thinking they might be hiring their next admin?
We were going to, but we've backed off from that because we've looked at the budget and it's just not there for us.
How did you know it wasn't there?
Because we have a number that they need to earn every month based off of my year from last year to cover all of our costs, and we haven't hit it for 2 months in a row. So I had a talk with my lead agent and I said, we haven't hit our target for the last 2.5 months. So I don't see how we can physically hire somebody on because, as you just said, we need 3 months salary in the bank.
Okay, yes. So let's actually talk about the percent. Everyone knows that the percent for salaries is what?
9 something.
12%, right? So 12% is how much your cap is on salaries. And to be quite honest, there's a new cap for the MREA and it's 14%. So you're going to see the new numbers come out.
When are they coming out, Val? Do you know?
I have no idea. I don't even know if they really do know. I think they just keep releasing information about all the new stuff that's going on, but there's never really the book's not in place. So the new payroll budget is 14%. I use the 14%. I mean, it's still documented everywhere. It's 12%, but because we have an admin team of 4, I do 14%. Was someone trying to say something? Okay, so one of the other thing, you're right, Chris, it is 14%.
Where would you get your numbers to for the budget for the hire? Like you're saying, if you want to hire talent, right? Where do you establish
that
like
budget?
Just to be fair, right?
So it goes back to what we talked about briefly last week. So what is your total GCI goal? Let's talk openly here for a minute. What's the total GCI goal for your team?
We're actually looking at that right now because we're not sure how we're going to, if he's going to stay individual or have a buyer agent. So we're just actually having those discussions right now.
Awesome.
So we're trying to see what it is for this year.
Okay, so let's just make up a number for the sake of it. Let's say
Sure.
that number is 1 million. They always say in the MRAA you want to net $1 million. Okay,
Mhm.
so let's say you have $1 million. That's your projected goal.
Sure.
Now you can do a couple different ways. As a solo agent, you have a couple options. You can take that $1 million, guys, and you could subtract 40% from that, which is 600,000. And that is going to be, you could either turn it into your net sales or you could have it as your net goal for all your operating expenses. So your payroll, your office supplies. So let's say you choose to do 600,000 is what you're going to put back into the team. You're going to subtract 14% from that. I'm using a calculator and doing some math, guys. So 14% of that is 84,000. So there's a projection of how much salary you can spend this year.
So then how do you know to divide it? Say for instance, between 2 admins or 3 or 1, or how do you?
That's an awesome question. Chris is actually asking the same thing, like salaries, roughly estimate how much we would spend on salaries based on experience negotiation. So if you
Yeah.
guys are good, we can have that conversation right now.
Or even if there's a source that we can go to where we can kind of see what the average is for things like that.
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I did that same thing. So when we had to hire our first admin, I actually Googled, so silly. I Googled what is the average salary for an executive assistant in Hamilton, Ontario. And there is actually a website that does exist. We're going back 4 years ago now. There is a website that exists that'll break it down for you. So the average salary for an executive assistant in Hamilton is $34,000 to $37,000. Someone just made a face. I'm not going to call you out, but I saw it. 34 to 37,000 entry level. So I'm gonna actually go right to Chris's question about experience negotiation. So let's say you have a salary budget of 84,000 this year, okay? And you're a single agent, and you're like, first of all, don't ever spend that all on one person, because wow. Take that 84,000, and let's remember, we got to do bonuses. And we're just doing bonuses and incentives based on that net $1 million. Everything else above that is gravy, okay? All the good stuff, and you can do extra bonuses for that. But that 84,000 needs to also pay out bonuses. So if you're hiring, and I know none of us here are that person, but if you're hiring your average administrator just to get in and do all the back end stuff that you haven't been able to do, I wouldn't divide that 84 up for 2 employees, because that's $42,000 you're offering the average EA, which is amazing, but you don't even know how they're going to work and run your business yet. So I'm going to share some information with you from our team and how I do payroll. And if we can all just keep that between ourselves, I'm not going to share anyone's salary or anything. I'm going to teach you guys like a hard lesson here that I've learned time and time again. I'm really cheap when it comes to the budget, very frugal. And I could have the most talented person sitting in front of me that I want to hire. But if that person does not negotiate their wages with me, I don't hire them. That shows me how they're showing up for themselves every single day. So I start low. So we had a marketing director a few years back, and I'm going to use her as an example. Some of you might know her, some of you may not. She came in, I offered her a job offer, and I went to our budget, and we had a lot in our budget for salaries because at this point it was just myself and another girl. So I was like, I'm going to offer her $32,000. She's come from not having a job into this career. I'm going to offer her $32,000. In my budget, I could offer her $36,000. So I gave her job offer of $32,000, and she came back and she's like, is it negotiable? I'm like, 100% it's negotiable. I'm like, this is where I thrive. Bring me your best and final. So she's like, okay. So I thought about it. I've Googled how much it costs to have a marketing director and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, great, here we go. So she's like, I can do this for $50,000. So I said, you know what? At the time, I like $50,000 was like, wow. You must be really amazing with no experience. So I said to her, I go, listen, unfortunately, we're not aligned. And I'm probably not going to pursue this anymore because we're so far from budget that this conversation doesn't make any sense. So she's like, quickly calls me because we're doing it via email. And she's like, oh my gosh, no. Okay. I will take $32,000. And I'm like, wait a minute. So you just gave up all this in between because why? And she's like, why should I try? You know, it's a real estate team. I thought you guys had tons of money and, you know, I thought I would just go for it. I'm like, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you one more opportunity to go back to the drawing board and negotiate your contract. So call me back with another number. So she called me back. She's like, okay, I can do it for 34.5. I'm like, done. Like I was going to give her 36, hands down. I was going to give her 36. So I was like, done, you're in. What I did. So, and this stays between us because this is like, if you're going to hire, here's how you save the day. So I gave her 34.5 as her salary. Her first bonus, $1,500. It was almost the $2,000 that was left on the table, right? So she was like, oh my God, this and $2,000, obviously the $2,000 came at the first, we do bonuses twice a year. And she's like, oh my God, so not only did I get more than what you were going to offer me, she thought she won. And sometimes it's giving them that win. So because of that, she was probably one of our best employees we ever had. And it wasn't because I was trying to make her work for cheap. That's not really what it was about. It was about what was she, how hard was she going to fight? And if she was going to fight for herself to get that job, I knew she was going to come in and she was going to do really well on the team. And she did last a really long time. And now she's an agent on her own. So salary is going to get messy, guys. And the person on the other side of the table, you have to be confident when you're talking your dollars and cents with them. So let's go back to this thing. I just shared that story, but let's go back to the $84,000 that's in the budget for salary. You're thinking about hiring your first admin. You never want to spend your entire budget. And they always say when you have top talent, you go in hard and you offer them the world and you make sure you make them happy. Yes, that's true. But you also can't break your bank and lose your business because of one really excellent hire. Okay. So with that being said, the average is 34 to 37,000 for an EA. There's really you can't really Google what does operations managers or director of operations make, what's a good salary, because it'll spit out 74,000. And I mean, I've gone to Chris with that and he said no. So today's my last day. No, I'm just kidding. I would take that 84,000 divided by 2 to the 42. Take the 42, subtract the 37,000, which is the max that you pay somebody, which leaves $5,000 for you to pay out incentives and bonus. So if you have top talent sitting in front of you and you want to offer them the max that an average assistant makes in Hamilton, which is between 34 and 37, by all means, go for it. You've left $5,000 in your budget now for bonuses. You can divide that bonuses up to twice a year, which is $2,500 in one time and $2,500 in the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of hope that helps you guys with that answer to the salary talk. Let me make sure I've got everybody. Okay, yeah, so, and then what you have is you have the rest of the budget for if you need to make that next hire. You've protected the budget. You've also protected the admin you're going to hire with the salary that you can offer and with the incentives for it as well. Is there any other questions around that, Chris? Did I get bonus structures? Actually, let's talk about bonus structures too before we get into that. So how did I determine 2,500 for each quarter? Random number for this call, to be quite honest. What we do on our team is as we grow, we want to make sure everyone's taken care of. So like I said, we offer bonus structures twice a year, June. So that way, if anyone's planning a trip in the summer or wants to take vacation, they have enough cash flow to get them through the summer if they take some time off. And then in November, obviously for Christmas. We want to make sure that they're taken care of at Christmas time as well. So we'll offer our bonuses out like that. We are working on a more in-depth bonus structure, but what we do right now is we just take the sales that we did in those 2 quarters leading up to November. So from July to November, we just take the business that we've done. And then we kind of just say, we do anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000 per assistant. And that's the minimum. If we have a stellar year, then we know that they're 99% the reason the year has been so stellar. We make sure that we add on top of that as well. This is where you protect the budget, but you protect your admin. When you can have a bonus structure that's laid out like that, that keeps people happy. And when you say your payout date is November 15th, you pay it out November 15th. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you're checking that bonus or that P&L every single month, you know that you have to delegate that money out in November. You protect that money, okay? You protect that amount because I sign off. I put it in a contract with our admins at the beginning of every year. We re-sign our payroll, we re-sign our commitments to the team, and I commit to them that they will get their bonus in November and in June of every year. So that's the bonus structure. It's not as a lot of places do things differently. A lot of places for their operations manager, not their executive assistants, but if you have an operations manager, marketing director, and all the different tiers, other teams do this. And I'm not sure if anyone's heard this before or not. For every closed transaction the team has, $100 goes to the operations manager as a yearly bonus. So let's say we close 84 deals. That's $100 per each one, right? That's almost $8,500 for the year. So that's another way that you could have a bonus structure in place that makes sense and it's attainable and you can monitor it. That's another way you can do it as well. And I know a lot of teams in the US do that way. And then we touched basically a little bit last week about the bonus or the incentive payouts for bringing leads to the team, right? We did talk about that and how you can do it so that way it protects the budget as well and documentation. So we talked about if you do an incentive with anyone bringing a lead to the team, you can give them $250 to $500. That's up for your team to decide from that commission of the closed deal that they bring to the team. You could pay it in cash from your own personal bank account, so it's not documented through the team's account, or you can do it in gift cards. Our accountants recommended gift cards. So, any other questions about that, guys? Okay, so sorry, there is. What about profit share bonuses? That's a great question, actually. So, Chris, Lisa, can you give me a little bit more information behind that? Like, what exactly profit share bonus is to you? What does that mean?
I was my team lead and I were talking about like based on amounts, like a percentage, you know, in profit. Like say there's like 350, then 5%, or 350,000, 5%, then 450,000, a certain percent. Like that's what she was talking about was profit share, but I didn't really understand about paying out, but that's how she was phrasing it, was profit share. So I didn't really understand.
Is she talking profit share? So profit share to me is, and don't stop me if I'm wrong. Profit share to me is when I've recruited an agent into Keller Williams. That's profit share to me.
No, she's talking more like her income, like.
So she's talking about her actual GCI. So if she hits his GCI of 450,000, you'll get 500. Yeah, that's that's a structure.
Of it, like you know, when she gets to like a certain amount, like say she gets to like when she gets to 350,000 GCI, then you know she would bonus me with 5% or something like that. Like
okay.
So you know that's what I was wondering about. I didn't really understand how the payout would work for that.
So how your payout should work is either you go through the payroll system. So whatever that 5% looks like, if it's $5,000, let's just say, then you're going to be taxed on that $5,000. If she wants to pay you cash outside of her personal account, that's absolutely fine. Then that's cash, $5,000 in your pocket. It won't be documented anywhere. It won't be in the budget. So you just have to be very careful with that. I'm actually, if there's an agent on or anyone who's looking at this profit share structure, I'm going to call BS on this from an agent's point of view. What's her GCI now? Actually, no, we won't do that because my challenge is that when is she projected to hit that 350 GCI? And do you have to wait an entire year, or is it an entire 2 years for that GCI to hit and get that 5% payout?
Well, it would be within a year. I just didn't really understand if it would it didn't make sense to me for her to say like, okay, at the end of the year, this is what I made, and pay it out in a lump sum, or like, I didn't really understand how it would happen. So
yeah, I would get something. I would put a contract in place for that. If you're doing bonus structures, like if it's a tiered structure, I would get that I would get that written out. Do the math, because at the end of the day, it's got to be in the budget to give to you as well, right? I think that's a long goal to get a bonus. I do. And not saying that she can't do 350. I know for 100% she's going to do that 350. That's just a stretch a long time for you to keep moving towards something. Does that make sense?
And then what happens also if you have a hire in that situation where you have a longer bonus, but then they're no longer with the team, right? So they might have only contributed to 70% of that. So how does that work?
So that's actually a really good question. So if you have them sign a contract, you have to follow through on that contract. So what you would do is say, you'd have to do the math and figure out how much they've accumulated in that short period of time. So
Okay.
if they were on the team and you hit that goal, but they were in their 2 weeks notice kind of thing, you'd probably have to pay out that whole thing.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if they only contributed to like, say 70% of that, would you do it at the end of the employment? Okay.
Yeah. Just to leave everything on good terms.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would do. And then I was actually just going to say something about the bonuses as well. I think Amber, you had mentioned it kind of in that question. Oh no, sorry, performance reviews. Sorry, I think it was Chris who actually said something about performance reviews. So we do performance reviews. This year, I'm gonna be honest, we didn't do them. We had a changeover. We had a new admin on our team for less than 3 months, so it was a little bit different. Last year, I sat down with all of our admins in November, and we talked about the weaknesses, the strengths, what they want from next year, if they qualified for a raise. I don't like to say you qualify for a raise based on your performance, because if that's a conversation I'm having in November, it means I didn't really talk to them throughout the year about their strengths and weaknesses, which isn't fair. And if I'm bringing it up in November, actually, you didn't really qualify for a raise because of this, this, and this, then I didn't do my job very well throughout the year. I didn't give them an opportunity to strengthen their weaknesses and work on them throughout the year. And we shouldn't be jeopardizing bonuses in November without knowing it. We've been really lucky that our administrative team works at a very high level and I say it all the time, they're phenomenal. And so they get rewarded every year. I feel it's really important that they feel just as important and know that their job is that much more important than any other job on our team, to be quite honest. It is the foundation. So I feel like when that's rewarded, good things always come from that. So bonus, I do performance reviews.
How often?
Once a year. So if you're doing a 411 monthly with your admins, having those one-on-one conversations, addressing strengths and weaknesses throughout the year, or if issues do come up, like, let's be honest, we're not perfect. There's going to be times where we've dropped the ball on something, or we've realized, and I'll use our listing manager right now for an example. She is bogged down. Like, she does so many listings for our team. We've had to change our timeline from only doing Tuesdays live to Thursday live. During this time, we've realized that we need to add some kind of leverage in there for her, whatever that looks like, if it's a VA or whatever that is. And it's because of the conversations we've had all year long to get to that point. So like I said, you can never leave something to a performance review at the end of the year. That's just here's how a performance review is for me. If I'm doing them at the end of the year and we've had our monthly conversations via our 411 or our admin meetings, and we get to the end of the year and I want to be able to say, you know what, like, based on this, this, and this in our conversations and how well you've excelled in your role, I want to give you a raise. That's the conversations I want to have in November.
So you're having them in November, but if you only hired them in June, are they getting a raise in November, or are you doing their yearly contract?
So the other thing is that by the government, you have to be given a raise once a year.
Okay.
And it falls within a set percentage. I don't care about that percentage as long as my budget's checked and intact. I don't care about that percentage at all. So if someone starts in June, for instance, we did have let's take our new hire who started in October. She got her performance review in November. It was structured a little bit differently than we've always done. And to add to that, she was also going into a sales role come this new year. So it was a whole bunch of different, like, we were actually seeing her growth going out of the admin role. So having that, so she was hired in October. She didn't qualify for a raise in December, strictly because, I'm going to be honest, I didn't have to give her a raise. She'd only been with us for 3 months.
Mhm.
At this point, we hadn't really seen anything excelling to kind of give her a raise if we didn't want to. So we were in a good position. Now, if someone came in June and was just rocking it in their role, and we get to November, I'm gonna want to keep that momentum going, and they're gonna get a raise for sure. Like this year coming up, we just gave one raise this year because they were eligible for a raise and they deserved it hands down. And it goes back to, I'm really frugal when it comes to our budget. Like you either you can do your job description all day and all night for me. What are you doing to knock my socks off though? Like, what are you doing to excel in your role and take it to the next level? That's outside your job description. And that doesn't mean working late evenings and weekends. That's BS to me. I make sure that our admins don't do that. Because what are you doing during your 9 to 5? That you are just an example of overall team, right? So, and I mean, some people don't like that conversation, but at the end of the day, I'm going to do everything I can to protect the budget, because the reality of it is I won't be able to give them a raise next year and or bonuses if I'm being really good all year round. Does that make sense? And it's having that conversation when you hire. So I put it right in the contract, and I can show you guys a simple contract that I send to all of like our job offers, and then the contract in place. So the job offer is different than the actual contract. The job offer is simply the starting point of the conversation. Here's how much we're going to offer you. Here's the bonus structure. Here's your hours, your Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, whatever that looks like. I send that out. They get to review it. We can negotiate from there. Obviously, I'm going to come in low. And if they take it, perfect. And then the contract's completely different. So the contract will lay out your bonus structure. This is how we do bonuses, because we're a small startup team. At times, if we're not reaching our goal, bonuses may not be paid out. That's never happened. But I do have to have that conversation up front. So when we have to sit down and have the review conversation and the raise conversation, that's already been done for me. Does that make sense? So having the difficult conversation up front. The other thing is benefits. We don't pay benefits, right? We're a small company, and it's cost way too much to add benefits right now. So I make sure that's in the contract as well, so that they know that there'll come a time when we will offer it, but we have to have a set amount of people on the team first before we can actually make it. Any other questions around that, guys? Is the bonus thing good? Or
Can I just ask one question? We already have a profit and loss. It just never had anything to do with me, but now I'm kind of getting involved in it. So saying that payroll should be based off of 12% to 14%, depending on where you're at. If you're finding that it's not at the 12%, so we just hired somebody else. She's part-time right now, just to kind of work that in.
Mhm.
But if the lead agent is saying they don't think, that maybe you can afford to make that person full-time, or, stressing about affording them because you're maxed out budget-wise, but that whole 12% isn't going to payroll. You know how you were saying, like, you can move things to other categories. Like, if it's being moved elsewhere, how would you work to adjust it back and bring that 12% back to payroll where it's being used in other places?
Okay, so you have to be careful where you're taking it from. That's the other thing too. I wouldn't take from marketing, because chances are if you're having another employee come on, it's because you've grown on your sales side.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that marketing is going to have to go back out to that new agent. So you never want to take from marketing. Where I always take from is training and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're delegated yearly, and I know how much our coaching bill is a year, all year long,
Mm-hmm.
and I've also created that gap in the budget as well. So if we have 2 new agent come on, my coaching budget still is good,
Mm-hmm.
because I've already leveraged that budget out in a higher end. And office supplies, because you can always save money in office supplies. We were able to determine, actually, thankfully, our marketing director, she found a company who can do our mail outs. We were spending atrocious amount. I can't even tell you guys. I'm so embarrassed how much we spent on that. We save ourselves $1,600 a month now, because we found another company who can do it for like less than or more than half the cost, or less than half the cost we were already paying. So you can always find ways to manipulate your office supplies. Okay, so I take from my office supplies, but I'm going to challenge you on this. So payroll's tough. You really want to stick to that 12%. And a lot of you guys know Chris. Chris gets excited when he has talent in front of him, and we get asked all the time, like, are you hiring? And he wants to hire everybody because he just wants to always help people out and give them jobs. We are we're maxed. I went to 14%. We're done. We can't hire anybody else. If top talent comes along, what I'm going to tell you guys is to follow career visioning with that person right from start to the finish. Because chances are, if that's top talent for you, you don't want to let it go. So how do you make it work? And staying within that 12 to 14%. If this top talent is not sales, it's an admin, my question would be, what are you going to do from the first 30, 60, 90 days to make your salary back? Right? And see what their answer is. So going through career visioning, that way it's a slower process. You get to feel, if you're really getting to know if they're good or not. And then asking that question. So let's say their salary is $30,000. What are you going to do for the team in your first 30, 60, 90 days to prove that 30,000 back to the team? Right? And I mean, the reality of it is that's five deals they bring to the team, 5 or 6 deals, depending on what the average commission is, right? Yeah. So sometimes you're going to have to, I don't do this. You're going to have to find a way. If it is top talent in front of you and you can't let it go, find a way to make it work. Now, another method is on the sales side to protect the budget. When you have new agents come on our ISA positions, a work to learn position, almost like a mentorship and internship. So they get all the full access to the team as though they're a full-time employee, but they're working for free, building their pipeline using our systems, our database, our CRM. And then after the 90 days, they go on to be an agent. So that's another way to protect your budget as well. Being creative with it too, right? So does that help? Okay, good. The other thing too, actually, did we hit everything, guys? Chris, did that answer all your questions about bonuses and everything?
Yep.
And Amber, you're good as well?
Yes, for sure. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, these are conversations we can continue afterwards too, guys. I don't mind at all. If you guys need anything about it, let me know. So we have 15 minutes left. We didn't really even get into like the individual layers. So I will make sure we do that too. Did anyone look over the P&L and have any questions? Because if you actually look, I keep feeling like I have a touch screen and it's not a touch screen. So one of the most important things in your P&L is making sure that you have a cost of sales section set up. Okay. Not a lot of accountants know to do this, but if you tell them that you're in real estate and need a cost of sales, they will make that. And then as you grow, you can actually make subcategories for every single one of your agents. And you can track when they've capped. And it doesn't actually interfere with the actual profit and loss, because it'll just stay at a 0 or it'll just be untracked. You could put it as an untracked number in your P&L, but you can actually break it down. You'll see in this one that I sent you guys where it says agent income, it'll actually, and it's broken down into like Annie Agent, which I love that name, and Bobby Broker, and Sally Sales. Sometimes I'm jealous. I never think of these creative names, but whatever. Maybe one day I will. So you can actually put your agents' names in there, and you can track their sales in the P&L too, if you want. Like if you really want to go that far, or how much money, I don't like this term, but how much money you're making from them. Okay. So that's breaking down the income that comes in. And then a good accountant, if you'll notice, will have it at the very bottom, your interest earned, your gross profit for each category for your cost of sales. And then under expenses in the salary part, Amber, this might be really good for you guys if you guys do take on the role of hiring admins, their names. Here it's like admin 1 and admin 2, but you can actually put their names, how much their salary is individually, what the percentage is at. And then below that, you can actually do so you can do admin 1, let's say Valerie. Valerie's bonuses and incentives. You can actually add that in too. So if you ever have to have a conversation and be like, well, actually, Valerie, like, here's the reason why we can't do a raise. We just done a raise for you 6 months ago, because sometimes they'll come back and ask in the next 6 months if they can have another raise. And that's okay. I love those conversations. But if you have it written in your P&L, like it's just 6 months ago, Valerie, we actually gave you a raise and we're now maxed out. We're at our 14%, which is our MRA budget model that we're following. There's nothing left in the budget to actually give you for salary. But what I can do is we can talk about your bonuses and incentives. And then you can focus on that. If there's areas, so say there's $5,000 left in her bonus pot, maybe there's a way you could work it out, saying if it is like a financial need that you do, maybe we can take from your bonuses and add that into your payroll. Does that make sense, guys? So it's a way to, if you know how much your bonuses are and know how much that payout is because you've projected it and you've put it in the budget, there's other ways too that you can also help out the employees if there's ever a need. That one we just kind of went off. I didn't even think to talk about that earlier.
Talk about the cost of goods sold as far as the concessions over cap transaction fee. What's that?
That could be a US thing because this is a US document.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't see it. Whereabouts is that one?
It's on right under, it's about mid-page of the ordinary income.
Okay.
Right about where your cursor is. Go up a bit, right there.
Yeah, so concessions could be something to do with vendors. It could be, gosh, what am I thinking? I lost the term. Or even particular to that team, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Yeah. But this is actually probably the best P&L I've ever seen in my life. Like the breakdown of cost of sales, the breakdown of the total gross profit, and then the percentage, your margins at the side, ideal for anyone who's following the MRA model. To see like the 2.8% of cost of sales, like that's incredible. In here too, I've never done this, and this is something I was going to touch on at the beginning because I was actually going to go, my goal today was to go through this with you guys. So we made sure that we had the right columns in place, is the labor contract. Putting in your actual vendors. So under marketing, doing your photographer's name, your home inspector's name, if you're paying for your home inspections for your clients and whatnot, having their name there, because in QuickBooks, you can do your invoice and billing. So if you have them labeled and you're doing an invoice to, let's say, your photographer through QuickBooks, because that's the other thing too. I don't do that. I pay out my invoices from our bank accounts and e-transfers, and then I just manually make sure it's in. If it's through credit card, then it's already pre-populated into QuickBooks. But I don't know if a lot of you guys do this or know this, but you can actually pay your bills through QuickBooks. Mm-hmm. It's simple, and some of us can do it if it's a small level. And new agent getting into QuickBooks is be ideal. And then everything just kind of pre-populates in there for you.
After you're doing like you're past the growing pains and all that of getting this all organized, how much time roughly should this take to track on a monthly basis?
That's an awesome question. Honestly, I take about 2 hours a week to do it. And then the conversations Chris and I have probably, I take the 2 hours, so our conversation's probably 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. The setup is going to be a nightmare for anyone who's starting. It's going to be an absolute nightmare, and so worth every bit of stress. So what I do in those 2 hours is I make sure all the invoices are paid. They're documented in QuickBooks. I go back and make sure that all the credit card statement, everything that's on the credit card is valid transactions, because right before Christmas, we actually had our card compromised, and we kept seeing like every one of these odd transactions that didn't apply to anything on the team. So that's where my time is really spent, is going through the credit cards and making sure that those transactions are accurate. Going through the bank account, making sure like the mortgages have come out for the investment properties. Like we now have more than just 2. So now it's like, I spend a lot more time babying that because I want to make sure I do know where everything is. And then once a week, a good point for anybody who is paying out like the cable bills, your phones, things like that. If you're paying any of the bills for your team, put it in your calendar. I don't know if my calendar is up, but I actually have, I'm not going to mess up our screen. I actually have the dates. So the dates the mortgage comes out, a calendar reminder at 6 a.m. that day. I don't have to do anything. I just know that that's out of the account now. Any pre-authorized payments, I put the date that it comes out into my calendar. So that morning, it could be a Saturday, and I'll get the reminder like, oh, you know, your car payments comes out today, or the insurance for your truck is out today. And that way it's peace of mind. So on Monday, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to make sure that that all did validate and pre-populated to QuickBooks. So that's where my 2 hours is spent. It's just double checking, making sure everything's legit.
And you do it all at one time, right? That 2 hour?
No, I break it up into two.
Oh, okay.
Only because all of our, I could save it till, actually look at this, my accountant's calling right now. I could save it for Friday and do it on a Friday, but Chris and I have our conversations on Fridays over the finances. So I do Tuesday and Thursdays. Thursday mornings, because Thursdays are my favorite day of the week and mornings are my favorite time of the day. So I got to get that over and done with. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tuesdays because of the weekend, making sure everything from the weekend and all that stuff comes through and is all done. And if Chris spent any money on the weekend, just having that tracked. And then I set it up for the conversation on Friday. Anything else? Any other questions we want to talk about, guys? We've got 10 minutes, or well, 5. Is there anything else since we've had the last couple of days that we wanted to, or a couple weeks that we want to target? Like next week, we're going to have the accountant come on, and that could take the full hour. So make sure you bring your questions and really just know that conversation you want to have. And if your agent wants to jump on, by all means. I know a lot of questions some agents are probably going to have right now is around incorporation. Like, can you incorporate? What's the benefits of incorporation? So if that agent wants to have those conversations with this accountant, then we can by all means delegate at least 15 minutes to make sure that those questions get answered. I just want to make sure that time's purposeful and that everyone gets their questions answered, okay? So if you can think of anything beforehand, that would be wonderful. Week 4, what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to actually do a lot of script practicing and role playing around the conversations for the P&L. So what we're going to do at the end of week 4 is I'm actually going to start giving you guys a to-do list of things to do. So for any of you people, I sounded like Don Cherry there. Anybody who is taking on the P&L, we're going to work right after the calls too. I'm going to hold you guys accountable to having those P&L conversations. So Tammy, let's say you want to start 15 protocol with Ryan. You're going to put me in on those calendar invites that you're going to do on the 15th of every month with Ryan. I don't need to be the conversation. I don't need to be there, but at least I know that you guys are still implementing whatever we take from this. So outside of this webinar for the next 4 weeks, what are you guys doing to make it work for your team? Because here's the reality. We go to, how many of us take webinars all the time or go to classes and we come back with like a sheets of just massive amounts of information. You want to implement it, but you don't. And then the weeks go by and you're like, yeah, that was such a good idea at the time, but I'm so comfortable doing this. That's silly. And we can't do that because then this was all for nothing for you guys. So if there's anyone on the call that's starting to do the P&L, after our 4 week, we can have a 30-minute conversation on setting you up for success after that as well. Okay. Or if there's anybody who is doing the P&L now, but wants to add a layer to it, we'll do that too. Okay. It's not going to end after this call because I think it's really important that when we're doing these things, we're seeing them through the entire way. And if it's hiring questions or anything like that, then we talk about those. So does anyone have any questions before we hang up? God, you guys.
I'm sure there'll be stuff through the week.
Oh yeah. And that's totally fine. I'm going to be at family reunion as of, I don't even know what today is, Friday. So if you don't hear from me until next week on Wednesday, that's just, I'm not here. Is anyone going to family reunion that's on this call? No one? Oh, sorry, Chris, I missed your question. Okay, sorry, Val, just going back. That 40% that you less at GCI. Was that right? Yes. So you're going to subtract 40%. As a single agent, you have an option. You could take that 40%, and that could be what you want to net from the team, or you could take that 40% and that's what you want to put back into the team. Okay. As a single agent, you have that option. What we do on the team is it's 40% is our operations cost. So I take 40% of that million, and that's what I use to run the team: salary, office supplies, all of that fun stuff, rent. But as a solo agent, I can't say if you want to do 40 or 60%. I leave that for you guys to decide, because you're growing a business as a single agent. But that 40%, if you take that 40% as your operation cost, then that's where you subtract the 14% from that number, the 9% for your lead gen, and all of that fun stuff. All right. So any questions, guys, just reach out to me. I'm always here and happy to help out when I can. If you don't hear from me Friday, it's my travel day. So yeah, I'll try to get back as soon as I can. Geraldine, I'll see you at family reunion. Okay, Geraldine, did you get tickets to go to that admin thing? Because I do need a bunch of Canadians in the crowd. So if you didn't and you want to go, let me know, because I have an extra ticket. Oh, you don't have a mic. Okay. So there is an admin social on the Monday night. It's called an admin social. It's a panelist event with operations managers. Haley Warner is going to be there. She wrote the book, Force Multiplier. So she's going to be there, and a couple other people. So what I'm thinking is that if we can fill the stage or fill the place with a bunch of Canadians, Chris is going. I'm making him go. It'd be awesome. So if you don't have a ticket, you need a ticket, let me know. It's Monday night from 7 to 9, and there may or may not be alcohol. I'm still trying to get that answer. I'm going to need it. So if anyone is going to family reunion, take my cell phone, make sure we connect, okay? And everyone else, have a good weekend, and I will talk to you guys next week, okay?
Thanks, Val.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.